Listen closely to what Senator Cory Booker won't let go unchallenged. In just one explosive confrontation, defying a committee chairman with "I'm not afraid of you," predicting Patel's firing with "you're not long for your job," exposing pre-confirmation purge plans, documenting Stephen Miller's FBI control, and revealing 20% of agents diverted from counterterrorism to immigration. The systematic destruction of America's premier law enforcement agency would be laid bare by a senator who refused to be intimidated into silence. Booker didn't expect to have to defend his constitutional right to speak when Chairman Jordan tried to silence him. Patel didn't expect a sitting senator to predict his imminent firing while documenting how he gutted the FBI's institutional capacity, making America more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack. Cameras captured every second as Booker exposed illegal pre-confirmation coordination with the White House, Patel's frequent conversations with Stephen Miller about running the FBI, the firing of Medal of Valor winner Brian Driscoll for political loyalty, and the catastrophic admission that it would take 14 years to fill vacancies created by Patel's purge. What did Booker's fearless testimony reveal about how Trump's FBI director was destroying American national security while Chairman Jordan protected him from accountability? September 16, 2025, 5:47 p.m. Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey sat with documentation that would expose the most systematic destruction of FBI capacity in American history. The former Newark mayor and Rhodes Scholar had built his reputation on moral clarity that refused to accept institutional corruption disguised as reform, and today he would deploy that clarity to say what needed saying. Even when the committee chairman tried to silence him, Kash Patel was systematically destroying the FBI, making America dangerously vulnerable, and wouldn't survive long enough in his position to complete the destruction because Trump would fire him the moment he became politically inconvenient. FBI Director Kash Patel sat with the defensive posture of someone who had survived an entire day of hostile questioning by deflecting to arrest statistics and attacking questioners' patriotism. His strategy had been consistent when confronted with evidence of failure: cite numbers about drug seizures and violent felon arrests as if quantity could substitute for the institutional capacity he was systematically dismantling. But he hadn't faced Cory Booker, a senator who understood that the real measure of FBI effectiveness wasn't how many low-level arrest agents made while playing ICE officer, but whether the Bureau retained the expertise to prevent the next 9/11s, stop the next foreign election interference, or protect the next synagogue from a white supremacist terrorist. Mr. Patel, I want to start off where we left off last time. Booker began, immediately returning to the question Patel had evaded in previous testimony. I asked you whether you had any knowledge or discussions about removing FBI officials and installing political personnel before you were confirmed to that position. Did you have discussions with the White House about the intentions to do so before you were confirmed? The question was precisely calibrated. If Patel admitted pre-confirmation coordination about firing FBI agents, he was confessing to illegal planning of political purges. If he denied it, Booker clearly had evidence to contradict him. Did I have discussions with the White House to remove FBI personnel? Patel repeated, stalling. No. So you're saying that you had no discussions with the White House before you were in the position about the removal of any personnel from the agency? Booker pressed, demanding absolute clarity. At 5:48 p.m., exactly 1 minute into Booker's questioning, Patel gave the answer that would expose the pre-planned purge. As I was preparing for my confirmation hearing, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed and that those that were failing to meet the mark at the FBI would no longer be employed if I were confirmed. The admission was stunning. Patel had just confessed that before becoming FBI director, he was already coordinating with the White House about which FBI employees would be fired. This wasn't a new director assessing his organization and making management decisions. This was political coordination to purge the FBI before taking office. And I'm assuming that mark had to do with loyalty to the Trump administration, Booker said, stating what everyone understood. No, you're wrong, Patel claimed weakly, but the damage was done. He had admitted pre-confirmation coordination about firing FBI personnel. Booker then shifted to another scandal, his grand jury testimony about Trump's classified documents. Did you testify that Trump declassified the Mar-a-Lago documents? Booker asked. I don't have the transcript. That's why I released it. Patel deflected. You said to Senator Whitehouse your testimony was released. It wasn't, Booker countered. The court said you're free to discuss it. So I ask again, did you testify Trump declassified those documents? Patel refused to answer, claiming the premise of your question is inaccurate. There is no premise, Booker shot back. You know right now what you testified. Why won't you answer? Then Booker moved to the systematic purge that had gutted the FBI's institutional capacity, the firing of career agents for political loyalty. During your nomination hearing, you promised that all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. Booker read from Patel's own sworn testimony. When I asked if you were aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with Trump investigations, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans. I don't believe you were truthful. The accusation of perjury was direct and damning. Patel had testified under oath that he knew of no plans to fire agents for investigating Trump, but he had just admitted having numerous discussions about firing FBI personnel before confirmation. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases they are investigating is illegal, Booker stated flatly. And you know that. Then Booker introduced the human cost of Patel's political purge. Brian Driscoll, a decorated FBI agent whose firing exposed the moral bankruptcy of Patel's leadership. A new lawsuit filed by 3 FBI officials alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution against FBI employees for failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty, Booker explained. One of those plaintiffs is Brian Driscoll. 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI, special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. The contrast was devastating. Patel, who had never served a day in the FBI before becoming director, had fired a 20-year veteran Medal of Valor recipient who had dedicated his life to protecting Americans. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8, 2025, Booker continued. And in that letter you said you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the President of the United States, so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him. The question exposed Patel's constitutional overreach. Article 2 vests executive power in the president, not in subordinate officials. Patel claiming Article 2 authority was essentially claiming presidential power he didn't possess. That matter is under litigation and I'm not able to discuss it. Patel deflected, hiding behind the lawsuit his illegal firing had triggered. Booker then exposed White House control through Stephen Miller. How often do you speak to Stephen Miller? Booker asked. Frequently on Homeland Security task forces, Patel admitted. Has Miller given you opinions on running your agency? Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable, Patel replied, confirming Miller's FBI involvement. The pattern was clear. Patel coordinated with Miller and Bondi about running the FBI, the Bureau's independence since Watergate had been eliminated. Then Booker delivered the systematic documentation of how Patel's political purges and mission drift were making America catastrophically vulnerable. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. The historical fact was devastating. Never before had the FBI been led by people with zero FBI experience. The institutional knowledge that prevented intelligence failures was being systematically destroyed. You shifted the FBI's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda, Booker continued. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. 1/5 of the FBI was now playing ICE officer instead of investigating terrorism, espionage, and organized crime. The mission gutting was staggering. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement? Yes or no? Booker demanded. Patel refused to answer, trying to deflect to statistics, but Booker had receipts. You are not denying that FBI agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement, Booker stated. You are not denying that FBI agents on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have been reassigned. Public Corruption Squad reassigned. People who defend children reassigned. Each reassignment represented a critical national security function abandoned for Trump's political priorities. Russian oligarchs operating with impunity, human trafficking networks expanding, public corruption flourishing, all because agents were chasing undocumented immigrants instead of actual threats. At 5:52 p.m., exactly 5 minutes into his questioning, Booker delivered the prophecy that would define the hearing. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience working on critical cases. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards to find anyone to replace them. Then came the admission that confirmed the catastrophic scale of Patel's destruction, and shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 14 years, more than 3 presidential terms. Patel had destroyed FBI capacity so thoroughly that even he admitted it would take until 2039 to rebuild. By then, how many terrorist attacks would go undetected? How many Russian intelligence operations would succeed? How many Chinese spies would steal American secrets? 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. Booker continued his devastating summary. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption, and who benefits from this? The answer was obvious and damning. Corrupt people benefit. Criminals benefit. Vladimir Putin benefits. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. Then Booker delivered the indictment that connected Patel's every failure to a pattern of deception. You swore to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. Each contradiction exposed someone who couldn't keep his lies straight. And Booker had the perfect summary from an expert source. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Generational destruction, not temporary setback, not manageable transition, destruction that would take generations to repair. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI, Booker said. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe. But you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. Then came the conclusion that would become the most replayed moment of the entire hearing. Booker's prediction of Patel's inevitable firing. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure has serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to head the Bureau. But here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. The prediction was devastating because it was based on Trump's documented pattern. As much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term, and in this term he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you, because I don't think you're long for your job, Booker repeated. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I pray that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Patel attempted to respond with his standard deflection to arrest statistics, but Chairman Jordan gave him the floor. What came next would expose the committee's corruption as dramatically as Patel's failures. It's my time, not yours. Jordan interrupted Booker, trying to silence the senator mid-testimony. And then, Cory Booker did what every Democrat watching had been waiting for someone to do. He stood up to the authoritarian chairman, trying to silence constitutional oversight. You can't lecture me. You don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You may be the chairman, but I am not afraid of you. The defiance was electric and constitutional. A sitting senator refusing to be silenced by a chairman abusing procedural rules to protect a failing FBI director. This wasn't just parliamentary theater, this was constitutional governance working. One branch checking another, refusing intimidation, demanding accountability even when those in power tried to suppress it. "Not afraid of you," Booker repeated, his voice carrying the moral authority that transcended parliamentary procedure and spoke to every American watching who understood that democracy dies when officials accept intimidation rather than demand answers. What Cory Booker exposed in those final moments wasn't just Kash Patel's systematic failures as FBI director, the pre-confirmation purge planning, the Stephen Miller control, the 20% mission drift to immigration, the 14-year rebuilding timeline, the firing of Medal of Valor recipients, the generational destruction of institutional capacity. He exposed how those failures were being actively protected by a committee chairman more interested in defending Trump's political appointee than protecting American national security or constitutional oversight.